Hello there, my dearest cinephiles. Welcome back to another thrilling episode of Tim and Tom's Film Night, where two old fools like us get together and share our most profound thoughts on movies, both modern and classic alike. Tonight's cinematic treat is a 1993 gem by the name of True Romance, directed by one Mr. Quentin Tarantino himself. Now, before we dive into the depths of this film's intricate plot and nuanced characters, let me just take a moment to welcome our new viewers with open arms. Hello there. We're thrilled to have you on board. For those who are returning, you know how it works. Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine, find a comfy spot on the couch, and prepare yourselves for an evening filled with laughter, tears, and perhaps even some light disagreements between Timothy and me. But don't worry, it's all in good fun. So without further ado, let's get started, shall we?
Yes, True Romance, a film I must admit I approached with a fair amount of trepidation due to its unique origins, to put it lightly. But after watching it, I must say I was pleasantly surprised by the result.
Yeah.
Tom, what did you think of this film?
Well, Timothy, as much as I try not to like anything with a hint of drama, there's no denying that True Romance is a masterpiece of storytelling. It's like a twisted fairy tale set in the grimy underbelly of 1990s America. You got your dashing hero, played by none other than the late, great restricted profanity-faced bastard himself, and his damsel in distress, played by the always captivating restricted profanity eater herself. But what really sets this film apart is its ability to weave together multiple subplots, like a restricted profanity O'Dactyl's web. You got the mobsters, the drug dealers, and even a sprinkle of restricted profanity cross-town traffic for good measure. It's like Tarantino took a pinboard full of his favorite pulp novels, rolled them into one giant restricted profanity up, then lit it all on fire while throwing in some restricted profanity ed-up fairy dust for good luck. Now, I know you're not a fan of my colorful language, Timothy dear, but sometimes the only way to adequately convey the sheer chaotic brilliance of this film is by swearing like a restricted profanity in Sailor. But seriously, if you can stomach the occasional foul-mouthed rant and a few splatterings of gratuitous violence, True Romance is a must-watch for any self-respecting film buff. So, Timothy, old chap, care to share your thoughts on this cinematic masterpiece?
Well, Thomas, dear fellow, I must say I share your appreciation for the film's masterful storytelling and its ability to weave together multiple subplots into a cohesive narrative. However, there is one behind-the-scenes tidbit about True Romance that has always fascinated me, and it involves none other than our dear Mr. Tarantino himself. As you may know, the script for True Romance was actually written by an up-and-coming screenwriter named Restricted Profanity before Quentin got his hands on it. Now, what intrigues me most about this is the fact that Tarantino reportedly made very few changes to the original script. In fact, he famously boasted in an interview that he only altered 2 lines of dialogue. This level of respect for the original work is truly commendable, especially coming from a man known for his penchant for restricted profanity, defying everything he touches. It's almost as if Tarantino recognized a masterpiece when he saw one and chose to let it shine through unblemished by his trademark flair. But jokes aside, Thomas, dear chap, I must admit that despite my reservations, True Romance did manage to captivate me from start to finish. The performances were top-notch across the board, and the chemistry between our 2 lead characters was tangible even through the screen. As a lover of good storytelling myself, I can't help but admire the way Tarantino managed to weave together all these seemingly disparate threads into a cohesive. What did you think of my restricted profanity gusting tale about the making of True Romance? Did I manage to tickle your fancy, Thomas, dear chap?
Well, Tim, old chap, I must say you've managed to tickle my fancy with your restricted profanity-usting tale about the making of true romance. It truly is a testament to Tarantino's talent as a director and, storyteller, that he could take an already well-crafted script and elevate it to new heights without completely overshadowing its original charm. Speaking of the script, it's hard to imagine anyone else penning such a masterful blend of pulp fiction and Shakespearean drama. The dialogue in particular is so restricted profanity hopped that it cuts through the screen like a restricted profanity knife, don't you think? And let's not forget about the character development. Each character, no matter how small their role, feels fully realized and complex, adding layers of depth to the already rich world Tarantino has created. Now, moving on to the direction, I must commend Tarantino for his ability to balance the film's gritty realism with a touch of restricted profanity sentimentality. The opening scene, with the two protagonists meeting in a restricted profanity film noir-style diner, sets the tone perfectly for the wild ride that is true romance. And who could forget the iconic restricted profanity oot sequence? It's like Tarantino took the best parts of classic Hollywood action films and spliced them together into a restricted profanity wilt-to-last masterpiece. But what truly sets true romance apart, in my humble opinion, is its ability to tackle heavy topics like violence, addiction, and redemption without ever descending into restricted profanity, restricted profanity, or melodrama. It's a delicate balance, but Tarantino and his talented cast and crew managed to walk it like restricted profanity-os, restricted profanity-hos, restricted profanity-os. So Timothy, as we prepare to delve into the intricacies of the film's soundtrack and cinematography, I must ask, what is your personal favorite scene from True Romance and why? And while you're pondering that little gem, perhaps you might want to share your thoughts on how Tarantino's restricted profanity ill-making style has evolved since then?
Well, Thomas, dear chap, it would be difficult for me to choose just one favorite scene from True Romance, as I found the entire film to be a masterpiece of cinematic restricted profanity. However, if I had to pick one that truly stood out to me, it would be the infamous restricted profanity oot sequence you mentioned earlier. The way Tarantino manages to seamlessly blend classic Hollywood action with his signature restricted profanity on temporary flair is nothing short of restricted profanity in miracle. And let's not forget about the soundtrack, that combination of restricted profanity, head, and restricted profanity in that restricted profanity R scene gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. As for Tarantino's restricted profanity ill-making style evolving since then, I would say it has definitely matured over time. While his later films still retain the signature Tarantino touch of violence and obscenity, they also display a greater understanding of storytelling and character development. For example, in restricted profanity, restricted profanity, and restricted profanity, he managed to tackle complex social issues like game, racism, and the American justice system without sacrificing his trademark restricted profanity lot, twists and turns. However, I must admit that nothing will ever top the raw, unfiltered, chaotic brilliance of his debut feature film, Reservoir Dogs.
So, Thomas, dear chap,
what are your thoughts on Tarantino's restricted profanity as recent restricted profanity actors? Do you think he's still got it in a restricted profanity anchor? Or has he restricted profanity as his restricted profanity powerful punch?
Now, moving on to the casting choices for a moment. Timothy, dear chap, I must say that Tarantino and his team truly hit it out of the park with their casting decisions. Let's start with our two lead characters, restricted profanity, played by actor name and actress name. Their chemistry on screen is tangible, and they bring such depth to their respective roles. As for actor name, he perfectly captures the duality of character name. He's equal parts charming rogue and cold-blooded killer, making it impossible not to root for him even when he's doing some, questionable things. And, as for actress name, she truly transforms into character name, her portrayal of a once drug-addled hooker turned unlikely heroine is nothing short of restricted profanity. The supporting cast is equally impressive, with standout performances from actor name as character name, who brings a much-needed dose of humor to what could easily have been an all-consuming sea of violence and crime. And let's not forget about the legendary actor name as character name, who steals every scene he's in with his trademark restricted profanity harism and restricted profanity, agering restricted profanity intense structure. But perhaps the real masterstroke of Tarantino's casting magic lies in his choice of restricted profanity as character name. As a former child star, best known for their role in the restricted profanity, hugely popular TV show name franchise, they bring an unexpected layer of nostalgia and relatability to the otherwise gritty world of True Romance. Their performance as the slightly more grounded counterpart to character name S, Wild Ride of a Journey, is both heartwarming and gut-wrenching in equal measure, adding an essential human touch to what could have easily veered into restricted profanity, onzen, restricted profanity territory. So, Timothy, dear chap, what are your thoughts on the casting choices for True Romance? Do you think Tarantino hit it out of the park with this one? Or did he strike out swinging like a restricted profanity you are restricted? Profanity uter at a restricted profanity or says restricted profanity.
Well, Thomas, dear chap, it's hard to deny the massive impact that True Romance has had on the filmmaking industry. Tarantino's unique blend of restricted profanity rim and restricted profanity as stripes, as you so eloquently put it earlier, has inspired countless directorial hopefuls to try their hands at crafting their own restricted profanity, restricted profanity, oint action dramas. In fact, if I may, restricted profanity, a little bit of my vast knowledge of cinema here. Many modern-day classics owe a restricted profanity in debt to Tarantino's restricted profanity irony work take. For example, the 2019 film movie title, directed by director named, while it may not have achieved the same level of restricted profanity alt status as True Romance, it certainly borrows heavily from Tarantino's playbook. The film's opening scene, which restricted profanity lashes back to its restricted profanity Hollywood roots with a classic restricted profanity aletto at restricted profanity restaurant meet cute, sets the tone for the wild ride that is to come. The film's protagonist character name, played by actor name, channels his inner restricted profanity as he navigates a web of crime and redemption. And who could forget about the iconic restricted profanity sequence? While it may not have the same restricted profanity powerful punch as Tarantino's classic, it still manages to restricted profanity lease the adrenaline in all the right ways. But it's not just the action and violence that True Romance has inspired. Its themes of love, loss, redemption, and the ever-restricted profanity-istant battle between good and evil have also left a lasting impression on the world of television. Take, for example, the critically acclaimed crime drama TV show name, which premiered in 2021 on network name. While it may not delve into the depths of drug addiction and prostitution as boldly as True Romance did, it does share a similar restricted profanity unretentious approach to storytelling. The show's protagonist character name, played by actor name, is a former cop turned vigilante who finds himself caught in a web of restricted profanity, politics, and crime that echoes the film's own restricted profanity, leading restricted profanity from its restricted profanity hour. In conclusion, dear Thomas, it's safe to say that True Romance has left an indelible mark on the cinematic landscape. whether it's inspiring future filmmakers to craft their own restricted profanity, profanity-oined action dramas, or influencing the storytelling of popular television shows, Tarantino's masterpiece will continue to resonate with audiences for generations to come. So, what do you think about this restricted profanity, regressive list of films and TV series that owe restricted profanity in debt to Tarantino's restricted profanity, I Only Work? Do you have any other restricted profanity competitors to add to the mix? Or do you think we've restricted profanity aired our quota of film references for the day?
Well, Timothy, dear chap, as we come to the end of our discussion on this classic Tarantino film, it's clear that both of us have our own opinions and preferences when it comes to true romance. While you might favor the more dramatic elements, I personally enjoy the thrill of a good action drama. However, what truly sets true romance apart is its ability to expertly blend these two genres into one cohesive masterpiece. As we wrap up this episode of Tim and Tom's Film Nights, let me just say how much I appreciate our audience for joining us on this journey through cinema history. We hope you enjoyed listening to our thoughts on true romance as much as we enjoyed discussing it. And remember, dear viewers, we love hearing from you, so be sure to leave a comment below with your own opinions and suggestions for future episodes. And now, without further ado, let me remind everyone to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode of our weekly film discussions. Until next time, this has been Tim and Tom signing off. See you next Sunday with another exciting movie review.